20-second hook English. One normal night, one emergency call, and just 40 seconds that changed everything forever. When the body cam footage played in court, the entire room went silent. Screams, knives, and death were only inches away, and what happened next shocked everyone.
Annie? All right. This matter did involve a last minute after the plea competency review. The court during that review did find the defendant competent and able to proceed to sentencing. So we are here today. Victims' rights compliance.
We are.
All right, we're in compliance. We're going to have 2 victim impact statements. Before I begin, Mr. Schmidt, did you receive both of the pre-sentence investigation reports?
I did. I have no correction to the court's PSI.
All right. And I know Ms. Landgraf did as well. And as it relates to the defense's PSI, there are certain corrections that Ms. Landgraf has filed with the court. Ms. Landgraf, did you review both of these documents with Mr. Sonnenberg?
I did, Your Honor. The document that I filed yesterday has the minor corrections to both PSIs.
Okay. Oh, to both. Yes, that's right. To the DOC PSI and to the alternate. I did review that yesterday, so I was aware of that. I apologize for misstating. And you thoroughly reviewed those with Mr. Sonnenberg?
To the best that I could, yes, Your Honor.
All right, to the best that you could. So you did all that you can as a defense counsel to be able to go over the documents with Mr. Sonnenberg?
Yes, it was a very emotional process. So we had to take some time and to get through it. Instead of just reading word for word, I kind of translated the paragraphs into my own words to let Mr. Sonnenberg know what was being conveyed.
All right, and for the record, you are a very experienced attorney, very good at your job, and in certain aspects, you do that as well with the plea questionnaire waiver of rights. That's your own form, your own computation of that, but it has always been accurate and correct in the court's view of when you have done that. Mr. Sonnenberg, I know that this is an emotional day for you. It's a serious day for you. Did you have enough time to go over both of these documents with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you understand what these contain?
Yes, Your Honor, a little bit, yeah.
Did you find were there any material facts or anything that was wrong that you want to correct to the court other than what Ms. Landgraf has filed?
No.
No, all right. And I'm going to say, Ms. Landgraf, if he is going to make a statement, I will need that microphone down because it's hard to hear him. There we go. All right.
We don't need to do that until you actually type.
Off the record, is he not handcuffed?
No, he's got a brace on his arm. We don't have handcuffs.
All right. I'm sure it's a situation that we have a lot of enforcement here, that if something were to go awry, then we are here. All right, back on the record. Okay, so let's start with the first statement, Ms. Bauer. Who is going to come and make a statement?
That black desk.
Off the record again, I would feel more comfortable if we had a law enforcement officer on that side as well. Thank you. Thank you, Captain. Back on the record. Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Colin Gerald O'Toole, COLLINGERALD O''TOOLE.
All right. Officer O'Toole, if you would like to please present your statement to the court. And if you're reading something, please read it slowly so that the court reporter can take down everything. And if this is going to be emotional for you and you need to stop, that's fine. I'd rather have you stop and take a breath than to not understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay?
The first one will be for Officer Zajac, who couldn't be here today. Your Honor, on the evening of December 16, 2024, my life could have been taken from me. On Monday, December 16, 2025, at approximately 5:55 p.m., I was nearing the end of my shift. It had been a long day, and I was with Officer O'Toole, who was in phase 3 of his field training. We had just cleared the Burnett County Jail after handling another incident and were heading home for the night. As I pulled into my driveway, a call came over the radio, one that instantly made my heart sink. It was from St. Croix Tribal Dispatch, relaying a 911 call that had came in at Burnett County Dispatch. Raina LaPointe, the mother of Monica, said Andrew was drunk and had locked Monica in the bathroom. He wouldn't let her out. I knew Andrew. I knew his history. I knew what he was capable of. A man I knew from prior violent incidents. Monica had a restraining order against him. I knew he was capable of harm. I knew she was in danger. And I knew that if I waited or checked off duty, as I was just minutes from doing, someone could have been hurt or worse, killed. What happened next changed the way I will respond to calls for the rest of my life. Monica had a protection order against him for a reason. He's a big man, aggressive when intoxicated. And Monica is significantly smaller, far more vulnerable. My instincts told me there wasn't time to wait. There wasn't just another domestic call. This was a situation that could turn deadly if we didn't act fast. I pulled out of my driveway and responded emergent. I wasn't going to let Monica become another name, another statistic, another woman failed by timing and hesitation. At 6:02 p.m., I arrived. A familiar sedan was parked in the driveway, Jamie Long's vehicle. She was sitting inside. As I walked past, she looked at me with wide, anxious eyes and said the word I'll never forget. Andrew's inside. When I arrived on scene, Officer O'Toole, my trainee, was right behind me. As I approached the split-level home, I saw Monica standing in the foyer, terrified. The front door was wide open, and I could hear crashing, yelling, and chaos inside. Then the words no officer wants to hear. He's getting a knife. Seconds later, I saw Andrew sprint up the stairs into the kitchen, and then the crashing grew louder. He was tearing through drawers, and I knew exactly what was coming next. I secured Monica out of the house and turned to confront what I feared would be the final seconds of my life. Andrew came charging down the stairs, full sprint, straight at me, wielding a large kitchen knife. The only thing standing us was a storm door, already damaged, the latch broken. He began slamming the blade against the glass. Full force strikes, not tapping, not threatening. He was attacking with the clear intent to kill me. Each time his knife hit the glass, I braced for the pain to shatter. I could see the rage in his eyes. Not fear, not confusion, just raw, violent rage. Inches separate that knife from my body. I gripped the door with everything I had, knowing that at any moment it could give way. I tried to de-escalate. I tried to speak to him. There was no humanity in his response, only aggression. He was out of control. He was focused on ending my life. In that split-second moment, with a weapon pointed at me and no barrier worth trusting, I had to make a decision, use deadly force or try to reposition. I looked behind me and saw something that stopped me. Raina LaPointe and a child near the stairs. I knew if I pulled my weapon and fired, I might hit one of them. So instead of protecting myself, I risked myself and I retreated to move to a tactical position. And just as I did, Officer O'Toole discharged his firearm, saving my life and possibly others. Afterwards, I helped render aid to Andrew because that is our duty as officers. But it does not erase what happened. It does not take away the fear, the trauma, or the reality that I came within inches of being stabbed to death while doing my job while protecting others. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Andrew Sonnenberg made the choice to turn a residence into a battleground, to turn a knife into a weapon, and to try to take a life that night, mine. Since then, I've struggled with the psychological toll of that encounter, the weight of having to make a life or death decision in a split second, the memories, that knife slamming into the glass, the look in his eyes, I still hear it, I still see it. I ask you to understand I wear a uniform, but I'm human. I have a family. I have people who expect me to come home. And on December 16th, at approximately 40 seconds after arriving the scene, that was nearly taken from me by one man's violent and deliberate actions. The hardest part of the whole situation was it was a normal shift that day. I was just pulling into my residence, getting ready to see my family when I backed out of my driveway. I can't help but think I didn't call my wife or my kids when doing so. And if I got killed that night, the last thing they would have heard, the last thing they would have seen was my squad leaving the driveway after pulling in. No goodbye, no I love you, nothing, just taillights. The part that hurts the most, knowing what they would have felt, they would have had a lifelong sadness that wouldn't go away. They would always have those questions of what if, hold him accountable, not just for what he tried to do to me, but for the chaos, the trauma, and the danger he brought into that home that night, to Monica, to the child, and to my family. I'm asking, no, I'm pleading, for you to impose a maximum sentence allowed under law. Andrew didn't just break the law that night. He broke a woman's sense of safety. He shattered trust, and he showed complete disregard for the protection order meant to keep Monica safe. His actions were calculated, violent, and terrifying. Monica could have been seriously injured or worse. The fear in her mother's voice, the scene we walked into, the trauma that Monica will carry, none of it will be undone. He was proven time and time again that he's a danger, and to anyone he tries to protect her. The only way to ensure Monica's safety and to send a message that this kind of abuse will not be tolerated is to hold him fully accountable. Please, Monica, please, for Monica, for her family, for every victim who prays for the protection that comes too late, give Andrew the maximum sentence. He earned it. Officer Mike Sajak, badge number 435.
Thank you. Now, Mr. O'Toole, yours, please.
Yep.
And again, if you need to take a second, you may do so.
Okay. On December 16, 2024, a day that changed everything. It's my first day of
I'm
phase.
just going to ask you to slow down a little bit.
Okay.
You read Officer Zajak's very slow.
Okay.
And good. So please do that with yours.
Thank you. A day that changed everything. I was in my first day of phase 3 FTO. I was so new that I didn't even know if I had my badge on correctly. At 6:02 p.m., my career changed. My family changed. I changed.
Take as much time as you need. It's a little bit more difficult, I'm sure, reading your own versus somebody else's.
I was on the phone with my wife when the call of domestic in progress came out. I told my wife that I loved her and I would be home soon. Never did I think that was almost the last words I'd ever tell her.
Officer O'Toole, you may take your time.
Never did I think I wouldn't be able to tell her I was okay, how much I loved her, or how I almost didn't come home. Being so new, I showed up to the wrong address. I thought I was going to get made fun of for it. Little did I know that mistake most likely saved my life. Mike and I arrived at the same time, hearing screaming of "he's got a knife." When I noticed Andrew coming down the stairs, knife raised above his head, coming for Mike and I. My only thought going through my head was my family and my partner's family. How could I explain to them that I failed in doing my duties of keeping my partner safe? I couldn't let that happen. Andrew, even as you were laying on the ground, you still showed no remorse, no care, no regret for what you were putting your kid and family through. You will never change. You refuse to take accountability for your actions. If it wasn't for Mike's bravery of holding the door, even in the face of imminent death, everything would have been different. If it wasn't for my first FTOK teaching me and preparing me for my career ahead.
I'm going to guess by FTO, you mean field training officer?
Yes, my field training officer, Kate Barker. Teaching me and preparing me for the career ahead, everything would have been different. If it wasn't for me going to the wrong house, everything would have been different. Even though I protected people and did my job and came home, it has not been without its challenges. I've spent many sleepless nights replaying the night of December 16th in my head and wondering what my future would look like. That my family and I have shed many tears over an avoidable situation that could have costed my life or my partner's life. When people say life flashes before your eyes, I never believed them until that day. What I saw that day was my wife holding hands with a little girl. I knew if I didn't stop Andrew, I'd never get to see this future with my wife. I believe that was God telling me what he had planned for me. When I was at my lowest, I told my wife I couldn't see through this, and she asked me if I could see my next step and said, "Just take it. I will be there to catch you if you fall." That's what true love is. That night, I had to start my recovery journey. Through that, I got adopted into a new family, the law enforcement family, a family that checked on me continuously throughout my journey of coming back to the job, a family that has my back until the very end. A family that never let me be alone in my darkest hour. I can't thank the Burnett County Sheriff's Office, St. Croix Tribal, Siren, Webster, and Grantsburg Police Departments enough for their continuous support in my journey. Holly Hakes has helped me ground myself in the support that I've received and focusing on the future ahead. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. This is where I belong. This is what I'm meant to be. I would do it all over again for my brothers and sisters in blue. I will keep doing it because it's my job to make sure everyone goes home safe. In the words of Mark Peterson, in the end, all that matters is I did the right thing. All I ask is that justice be served in a way that reflects the seriousness of what my family and I endured. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer O'Toole. All right, Mr. Schmidt. Argument and sentencing recommendation, please.
Thank you. A segment in here, I'm going to switch to playing some video footage for the court. I'll let the court know when I'm going to do that. I've already set it up with the clerks prior to the hearing.
Thank you for doing that.
The state's recommendation here is going to be towards the high end of the court's PSI recommendation. I'm going to be recommending 7.5 years initial confinement and 4 years extended supervision, which is the top end of that.
All right.
The driving factors of my recommendation are, I think, in order that I think the court should prioritize them, which is incapacitation, specific deterrence, rehabilitation, and general deterrence. I think it's most appropriate for me to start with my argument based off of the presentation by the officer here, reading Officer Zajac and Officer O'Toole's statements by emphasizing how really dangerous this offender is. You heard some of that alluded to by Officer Zajac's statement. His criminal history is just riddled with either dealing convictions or battery convictions or read-ins. Most people who were talked to by both PSI writers, both the one who prepared the sentencing memorandum for the defense, as well as the DOC agent who prepared the courts, referenced multiple incidences across Mr. Sonnenberg's life in particular, where Mr. Sonnenberg was in possession of knives and a need to disarm him. That's been like a recurring thing mentioned in those PSIs. The instant case involves him stabbing at and chasing two police officers before they really even had a chance to say much of a word to him. It was just wanton and pointless and potentially lethal. That's
3-minute voiceover script English. This wasn't just another court case. This was a terrifying story about survival, fear, and a split-second decision that changed lives forever. December 16th, 2024. A police officer was finishing his shift and pulling into his driveway, ready to see his family after a long day. Then suddenly, an emergency call came through the radio. Domestic disturbance. Possible knife involved. Without hesitation, the officer backed out of his driveway and responded to the scene. What he didn't know was that the next 40 seconds would become the most traumatic moment of his life. As officers arrived at the house, screaming could already be heard from inside. The front door was open. Chaos echoed through the home. Then someone yelled, "He's getting a knife." Seconds later, the suspect appeared at the top of the stairs holding knives in both hands. The officers barely had time to react. A thin glass storm door was the only thing separating them from a man charging directly toward them with deadly force. The suspect slammed the knife against the glass repeatedly. Each strike sounded like the moment before disaster. The officer held the door shut with everything he had, knowing the glass could shatter at any second. On the body cam footage, officers can be heard screaming, "Stop! Stop!" But the suspect kept coming. One officer later told the court that in that moment, all he could think about was his family. He said he saw a vision of his future wife and daughter and realized if he didn't act immediately, he might never see them again. Then gunshots rang out. And suddenly silence. When the footage was shown inside the courtroom, emotions took over. Officers struggled to hold back tears while describing how close they came to death. One officer admitted he still replays the event in his head every night. The courtroom heard how a normal shift turned into a nightmare in less than a minute. And one terrifying question remained. What would have happened if police had arrived just 5 minutes later? This case became more than a criminal sentencing. It became a reminder of how quickly violence can explode and how officers are forced to make life or death decisions in mere seconds, hoping they'll still make it home to their families.
When we analyze constitutional issues, something the Supreme Court really tells us is to consider the fast need to respond and make a decision, the snap judgments law enforcement needs to make for safety reasons every day. And I think this really emphasizes why that exists, why that's a matter of law and not just a matter of fact. I want the court to watch for the things I just described. I want the court to watch in particular for this one. So I'm going to start that now.
Before he does that, my client would like to leave the courtroom for the video playing.
Yes,
All right. I do have to require him being here for the sentencing portion, but for the video portion, does that go into your argument? Do you talk while the video plays, Mr. Schmidt?
I was going to.
Can you refrain from doing that?
What I'll do then is I'm going to play each of their videos twice and then I'll comment later. The reason I'm playing it twice is just it's so much so quickly.
All right. Law enforcement comfortable with that and bringing him to the elevator or elevator room? All right, thank you. Then we can remove Mr. Sonnenberg for the playing of the video portion only upon his request. What?
Do you need me to get it?
Daniel?
No, do you need me to get a presentation thing or do you?
I think I can do it. We don't do it a lot, but okay, so should be on.
Perfect.
I'm in the house with Monica.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I hear a lot of screaming on the phone.
Get out of the house. Get out of the house.
My daughter's upstairs.
Let's go, nigga!
Hey,
Oh my God!
Andrew, stop. Just, hey, stop. One at gunpoint.
One more time.
I'm in the house with Monica.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I hear a lot of screaming on the phone.
Get out of the house.
She
Get out.
says he's grabbing a knife.
Let's go, nigga!
Hey,
Oh my God!
Andrew, stop. Just, hey, stop. One at gunpoint.
I hear a lot of screaming on the phone now. She says he's grabbing a knife.
Mike, you hear that?
Oh my God!
Hey, get out.
Andrew,
Stop. Just, hey, stop. One at gunpoint. Shots fired.
I hear a lot of screaming on the phone now. She says he's grabbing a knife.
Mike, you hear that?
Oh my God!
Hey, get out.
Andrew,
Stop. Just, hey,
stop!
one at gunpoint. Shots fired.
All right, can you knock so they can come back in?
And then just for the record, I played the first 44 seconds of Michael Zajak's body cam. I played it twice. For Officer O'Toole's, I played the first 26 seconds twice. That's going to be on a flash drive. I do submit to the court at the close of my sentencing argument.
Right, thank you.
When I watch that body cam footage, a number of questions race across my mind every time I watch it. First, what if Officer Zajac did not retreat when he did? What if that storm door panel, that flimsy glass there, what if that broke? What if Officer O'Toole did not fire and also chose to retreat? Would they have been running away from Mr. Sonberg? Would they have gotten away? What if the police were 5-10 minutes later on arrival? Would Sonnenberg have gotten out the knives anyways with Rana and Monica? He has a history of violence, in particular with Monica. With what Mr. Sonnenberg consumed, according to the PSI, the vodka, the cocaine, the fentanyl, the methamphetamine, there's no way to know. I don't think he could possibly know, and that is terrifying. For Monica, for his daughter, for the police, for literally anyone in the community who might have been coming into contact with him when he was doing that. His own family has complained that they've had to disarm him of knives themselves, that this is a recurring problem with him. Just for those reasons, probation, where the court has to start with every sentencing, cannot be the answer. Andrew Sonnenberg cannot be safely in the community for treatment. So let's talk about rehabilitation here for a second, because both PSIs talk about rehabilitation a lot. There's a lot of conversation about traumatic brain injury and injuries he suffered from terrible car crashes back 20 years ago, as well about his substance abuse. He himself sources all of his violence, all of his criminal history back to substance abuse. I have mixed feelings about that in this case, because yes, he has the memory issues and the traumatic brain injury from the car crash. And yes, he's got the substance abuse issues. But when you read the PSI, both Sonnenberg and his family seem to have been very acutely aware of this. They've known about these issues for a long time, and they've persisted. And it doesn't matter how many terms of probation he's been on, how many sentences he's gotten. He's been evaluated up and down the wazoo by state and federal authorities for mental health and AODA. Decades of that kind of treatment, both on supervision and in a confined setting, has been to no avail. The awesome resources available through the federal system were not enough. They even had a reentry program, something that, quite frankly, would be a dream in Wisconsin, that Sonnenberg once failed out of and then the second time just refused to do. The reasons I have mixed feelings about the rehabilitation for this fact pattern is because, yes, you could look at Mr. Sonnenberg and say to yourself, if we can just get the right treatment for the traumatic brain injury and the memory issues, we know there are treatment paradigms for that. There's therapies, there's oversight. And if we can just treat the AODA issues, then if these really are the causes of all his behaviors, then that should work. That should end the criminal behavior. It should end the pattern of undesirable behavior. But look at that as a double-edged sword, because we can't have the arrogance to say it's going to work this time. Madness is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. The expectation should be, regardless of what the sentence is today, if we're just using logic and science and prediction and believing in the assessment tools, that Mr. Sonnenberg is likely to recidivate again, and it is likely to be violent because of this history, because of the history of non-success rehabilitating. And because when you look at issues like that, when a person has a 20, 25-year history of abusing substances and getting violent, it really brings to mind why in 2013 the legislature got rid of the voluntary intoxication instruction, because they just thought it was a bad idea. If you read the legislative materials for when they did that, it doesn't make any sense for a person to be alleviated from responsibility from choosing to use a substance that causes criminal behavior. Yes, there's the substance abuse disorder. It's harder for them, but there are a lot of people who are alcoholics, who are addicted to controlled substances, who don't have these issues. They don't have this level of burden on society. Because when it gets down to it on this one, the risk that, say, a drunk driver has to society is the speculative risk of maybe they'll hit someone. Or the risk of someone who is addicted to drugs might be, maybe if they have a history of stealing, they might go out and steal. The risk of Mr. Sonnenberg is different than a lot of other people, because the risk is of death and great bodily harm to others, of him working himself up into a state where he can be that dangerous to people. The instant offense, the elements of the offense, is literally that. It's risk. It's substantial and unreasonable risk of death or great bodily harm. That's what he did, and what caused it was him hanging out with a friend and consuming a large amount of alcohol and drugs, working himself up to violate a restraining order with his ex. That's what he was trying to do when police just arrived and he attacked them. That's why in this case, the solution has to be prison, and it has to be a substantial amount of prison. Prison is the only place where treatment can be safe for the community. Treatment is necessary in a confined setting here. I think even beyond that, I think not just treatment, I think Mr. Sonnenberg needs a controlled environment where he can't be a risk of death or great bodily harm to others, where he can practice the sobriety that's supposed to come after treatment. If he can't accomplish that in prison, he's not going to accomplish it outside. There is some suggestion in the PSI with statements from Sonnenberg and some other people that he shouldn't be sent to prison because he'll just use drugs in prison, which is really counterintuitive, because if a person is going to use drugs in prison where drugs are less available, where there's less control over, where there's less drugs available and more control over them, then they're obviously going to be greater risk of using drugs in the community. Just the incident case here involved polysubstance abuse. The community needs Mr. Sonnenberg to get treatment in a confined setting and practice that sobriety for a substantial period of time before he gets released. And prison is the place where that can happen. Because when Mr. Sonnenberg's out in the community, it's easy for him to get controlled substances, even if he were on probation. It would just be a simple drive to a liquor store or using old connections to get controlled substances. And when he uses those, he becomes unpredictable and potentially lethally dangerous to the community. Prison is a consequence, you can tell from the PSI, that is extremely negative to him, meaning he really doesn't want it, so it also has a strong deterrent effect to him. Finally, I have to speak to the gravity of the offense, which is, it's different than the other things I've described so far. I've argued for incapacitation in the sense that the more time Mr. Sonnenberg is away from the community, the more time it's protected because of the unpredictable, dangerous nature of him using controlled substances and the impracticality of preventing him from using controlled substances while on supervision. Specific deterrence, the long prison sentence, ratcheting up consequences. Rehabilitation, where it's a double-edged sword, where it seems if you could treat some of his underlying conditions, the substance abuse, the traumatic brain injury, he might be better, but the lack of success over 20 years would suggest it's perhaps hoping a bit too much to think that's likely to happen. And finally, the general deterrence, which ties into what I'm going to say about gravity of the offense. This is a person who charged the police with knives before the police had done or really said anything. The court just watched the body cam I played. The officers just arrived there. They hadn't even had contact with Mr. Sonnenberg. They're warned over the radio of shouting and knives. They hear shouting. They hear Monica leave the residence and mention knives. And Sonnenberg appears at the top of the stairs with one knife in each hand and just charges them. No discussion. No, let's talk about this. You heard Officer Zajac try to talk with Mr. Sonnenberg at the door after he charged and started slamming the knife into it to no avail. It was completely pointless, reasonless, potentially lethal violence. That demands treating this with high gravity. It might be the police were charged at because they are police. They were targeted for that reason, that identity. There's some stuff in the PSIs to suggest that. Comments from Mr. Sonnenberg about being paranoid about the police and them targeting him and complaining about the jail. Perhaps even more terrifying is the possibility that Sonnenberg would have charged anyone, as I described before, concerned neighbor, different family member, Jamie Long, who drove him there and didn't think any of this was a good idea to begin with. Someone who wouldn't have a gun with them or have training about what to do in these scenarios, or not be his relative to be able to, hey, Andrew, or let's just talk it out, just give me the knife. Someone who wouldn't be able to do that. What happens if that's just a concerned neighbor instead? The risk here was above substantial. These officers, with the suddenness of what Sonnenberg had thrust them into, were clearly affected. You could see the reaction on Officer O'Toole's face. The emotion he had was raw and genuine. There's no doubt he suffered trauma from this incident. You could feel it in the words written by Officer Zajac. He was actually explicit about that. All of this came from what you have to determine at the end of the day because we believe in freedom of will in Western tradition, a deliberate decision to consume large amounts of substances and consuming alcohol